Love my husband. I think people wonder how a wife can be the one to stand up and give a eulogy. Well, I think all of you wives in the room will know. No one knows your husband quite as you do. The same is true for Don and I. I know him differently than his children. I know him differently as his friends. And there is nothing I would want to do on this day more than honor this man. Also, I have to be honest, it's about the only time I don't get interrupted. Oops, if you ask Don to tell you about his life, he might very well have answered, "My life was very hard. I was born a poor black child." Some of you know that is a line from a Steve Martin movie about a white man who was adopted by black sharecroppers. Others of you did what a lot of people did when he said that, and that was just have strange looks on your faces. But that statement says two amazing things about my husband, and very true things. One is, he did have a very tough childhood. And number two, he was a very funny man. In honoring him today, we need to look at all sides of Don, including those. Don was born on August 4th, 1942, and he passed away December 2nd of this year. Most of you know it was kind of a short illness. It was about a month. But what happened in this little dash? Well, those of you who knew Don can testify he didn't dash anywhere. That wasn't part of what he did. But I can also tell you, his life cannot be represented by this little swipe of a pen. I have it better. Gregory. By the way, this is my nephew, Greg. No, I don't think it was a dash of a pen. I think it looked more like this. A very colorful combination, not black and white. Life is not black and white. There's reds, there's blues, there's yellows, there's greens. Yes, there are some dark colors in here. One of those early dark colors might have been when Don lost his mom when he's 4 years old. It's a very dark color right at the beginning. And some of that darkness continued as he was raised by an alcoholic, abusive father. He told me a story one time about he and his sister, Lori, who had to stay in a creepy little room above a bar while their dad was downstairs drinking. And they were hungry. So they snuck downstairs, and Don stole a little packet of oyster crackers and ran back upstairs. He and Lori opened up that little package and carefully counted and divided those crackers so each would have an equal amount for their dinner. Eventually, a relative took in Lori, his sister, but did not want Don. Didn't want a boy. Boys were too hard. So Don ended up in a boys' home run by Franciscan brothers. It was from this point on that Don referred to himself as an orphan. Well, I have to tell you, our friends in the back from the dog park, Don would always let you know he was an orphan. This was an important part to him. Until Heinz one day says, "Don, we're all 70. We're all orphans." He really lost something there because that was his big claim to fame. But eventually, Don, like he always does, survives. He left the boys' home when he was 17 years old and he joined the army. Got on a boat, took off to Germany. Loved Germany, loved German beer, a little too much. But then when he came home, he was a young man. He had no family to speak of. He had no hireable skills and no idea what to do with his life. But he just kept doing what he does, just kept going. He eventually married these lovely girls' mother, Nancy Mitchell. And together they had 4 children. Any of you that know Don know he loves babies. So the birth of his own 4 children was really a highlight. Those were the bright colors in here. But because he had no role model in his life, he didn't really know how to be a husband or a father. Those years in here, those were dark for Don. Not always. There were highlights, just like in the colorful ribbon. The dark and the bright blended together. But he looked back on those years later and he had such shame and regret. He wished he would have known how to be a better father and husband. Later, another really bright part on him is the birth of his grandkids. Don loved his grandkids. Every one of them. He was Grandpa Cha-Cha because he used to go to the babies and say, cha-cha-cha-cha. So anybody that had an email from him knew that it was signed Grandpa Cha-Cha. And he had his baby doll, Tara, and his toots, Erica. His only grandson, Ryan. He loved his grandkids. During the time that the grandkids were being born, he also met and married a woman named Jerdis. Jerdis was a singer. They had a good life together. But even in that, there was some darkness, as Jerdis had been diagnosed with cancer. And Don lovingly cared for his dying wife. This is all part of who Don was. The next and last 12 years of his life, I can guarantee you Don did not see coming, because it had me in it. Kind of a loud, brash, some will say kind of a know-it-all. I don't think so. But when he got me, he also added Kevin and Kyle, my sons, to his legacy. I cannot tell you how he enjoyed getting kind of a second chance to do the father thing. He loved watching Kyle on the football field. He loved watching Kevin, that was my son, playing guitar. He learned and grew during this time. And by the way, when he was with Jerdis, that's when he met Jesus. This was a huge thing. In meeting Jesus, Don learned a couple of things. One, all that shame and guilt he had been carrying, he could leave that at the foot of the cross. He did not have to carry that around. That did not have to define who he was. Secondly, he could forgive. He could forgive those people that made his childhood so hard. Not because he could do it. We in ourselves, in our humanhood, we don't have that kind of power. But when Christ lives in us and we allow him to do that work, we can forgive even the unforgivable. So here's Don. He's with Kevin and Kyle and I. We have this kind of new thing going. And I tell you, Don was an amazing guy. He loved to cook. And as I can tell you, there is quite a few young men in this room who have benefited from Don's cooking abilities. I would think I'm seeing a couple of them here and there. Don tried very hard to claim you on our taxes because he did feed you quite often. But he loved nothing more than our living room filled with teenagers. He continued to grow. He continued to grow in his faith. He continued to battle those issues from his childhood. I think his daughters and his granddaughters will tell you, there was a change. He grew. He learned to love, even though he had not been taught. Don, I think if you look, you'll see some colors that run the whole span of this. I would say that maybe the red is his love for the Detroit Red Wings. You might have noticed. He was a big fan. He also in here, maybe the green, is his love for animals. He loved our dog Bryce. He even loved my weirdo dog Maddie, who barked at him for the first 8 months that we had her. And he has his infamous duck collection. I still don't know how that started. Just a random duck, I suppose. So some of these colors run all the way through. One, I know anybody that knows Don, is his sense of humor, which he had right up until the very end. In fact, we were in the hospital room trying very unsuccessfully to get some sleep. He's in the bed, I'm in the lazy boy chair, and nurses are coming in and out every 5, 10, 15 minutes. And we're not sleeping at all. This is the night before his surgery. So this was just December 17th, or November 17th. And we're laying there in the dark, and I hear him say, "Honey?" I said, "Yes." And he goes, "I don't think this is what people mean when they say get a room." And then he continued to describe the charge nurse standing outside our door handing out job assignments. And I can't do Don's voice, but he could do these accents. And like he said, "You, with a grating voice that speaks no English, you do all the talking. You, clumsy guy, you handle every metal object in the room. And hey, kids, for fun, let's collect the garbage at 3 a.m. He had me laughing so hard, I literally got shushed by the nurses. This was the night before his surgery. The man was funny. He made me laugh. So as we look at his life, and I laid out this ribbon, there's something wrong with this picture. I wanted to show you the colorful life. It's not black and white. But there's something that's not right about this, and that is, life is not linear. I've been winding this up as I've talked. Look at the people from his childhood are touching the people from his adulthood. His children's life have touched my life. His friends, even the influence his parents had. Look at, we're all, every event, every person, we're all touching each other. We're all getting all smooshed together. It's not linear. It ends up being a nice ball, a colorful, complicated, beautiful life.